I would say watch and learn, but unfortunately, you cannot learn this.
Hey everyone, my name is Vedius, and today we're going to be looking at some cool tips and tricks for you Qiyana players at home that want to try and get better and better understand the champion. So without further ado, let's jump into it. The first thing I'm going to teach you about Qiyana is that you always want to be sitting on one of the 3 elements. As we jump into the practice tool, you'll notice that right now I have no elements. You can see that each hit does about 43 damage at level 6, right? We're going to pick up a water element, and you'll notice that you just get a small amount of bonus damage off the back of holding onto one of these elements just passively. So it's always extra valuable for helping with last hitting and just giving you a bit of extra damage overall. The main element that you want to be sitting on for the laning phase is the water one. The main reason for this is it provides you with an extra bit of CC. You can see that the root will lock up a target, which is great for things like gank assists. It's really useful for setting up your own combos in lane, which we'll talk a little bit about later. The final thing that I want to talk about as well that's really valuable with just mainly sitting on an element is it threatens your opposition. We already talked about how it can be used to set up for a combo with your jungler, but if you want to be on the offensive yourself, if you're sitting with the water element, what you can do is you can use the E and Q to root someone, then you can reset your Q with the W, and then you're ready to land an extra bit of damage. So having that element always prepped enables you to then set up a combo a little bit later on. Let's now move on to some of the burst combos that Qiyana does have in the laning phase. One of the things that you need to remember about Qiyana is that a lot of her damage actually comes from her passive. And how her passive works is whenever she picks up a new element, it refreshes the passive, or if she acquires a new element, it also refreshes the passive. So what you want to do is whenever you're looking to hit someone, you want to make sure that you're constantly saving your W in between your combos. So a basic damage combo, for example, is Q into W into Q. And that way we'll maximize our damage because you'll be able to refresh your passive twice. So you have that extra bit of damage available to you. One of the basic lane combos that we talked about a little bit earlier on is the utilization of the water element to root a target up. Now, the great thing is if you use your Q with your E together, you're able to guarantee the Q landing, so you can guarantee a root. This means that when looking to trade in the laning phase, what you'll want to do is land the root with the EQ combo, refresh it with the W, land an auto if you can, and then look to finalize things off with the Q. So we're going to have a look at that now. You do the EQ combo to root, reset, land the auto, Q again. And that gives you a nice amount of burst damage. It's very effective in the trades. You can pick and choose which element you choose to use in the second half, but if they're below 50% health, always try to get that earth element in because you do extra damage to low health targets. So now we've showcased some of the basic laning trades. I wanted to showcase one of the big burst combos that you're available to do on Qiyana. So one of the first things you want to do is grab yourself an element. Typically, the water element is one of the best because, again, it provides that initial CC. You're then going to want to root your target up. You're going to want to land an auto attack if you can, reset the Q with the W, and then you're going to want to ult your target into the direction of a wall so that you can CC them, knock them up, get all that extra burst damage, and then you're going to want to use your Q, typically from the earth element, to execute and finish them off, right? So we're going to try and showcase that right now. You start with the EQ, land an auto, you get the earth element, you ult, and then you finish them with the Q. If you want, you can throw an ignite in there as well. This will do a lot of damage very early on into the game. It's a high amount of burst and works best when paired up with a jungler or when the enemy target is very low HP. Humanoid demonstrated this beautifully in a recent LEC game. We're going to have a quick look at him doing that once again.
Chachi down towards the bottom side. Kobe has a strong advantage. Humanoid jumping in. Cersei here, Boxer. There's nothing you can do. The stun lock. A supreme display of talent there by the Splice mid jungle.
So now that we've covered some of the basic burst combos of Qiyana, I wanted to show you some of the cool tips and tricks that you can use when moving through things like the jungle. One of the most important is that her W can be used to jump over a lot of terrain, and it's surprising the things that you can actually jump over given the W's range. So we're going to showcase some of the walls that you can actually jump over. One of the impressive ones is here near the Gromp wall. You can actually jump over this one. You can also do the same thing here. These really thick walls, you can't necessarily get over all of them, but at the corners of edges, you can actually jump over these. You can jump over these as well. Things like the back of the Baron and Dragon Pits are also relatively easy to get over with the W. So one of the other cool things about Qiyana is that her E is actually a fixed distance. This means that if you're at close range to certain targets, you can actually utilize these targets to get over other walls and obstacles in the similar way to which Yasuo can use his E to do the same thing. So for example, if I just add a minion to the back of this pit and I get nice and close, you can actually use the E to get over these walls. And so that's just an extra tool in your kit to get over a number of walls. And you can use things like the blue buff, the Gromp, Krugs, Raptors. You can use all these monsters to help. The positioning can be a little bit awkward and you have to put them in the right place, but it can be used. It's just an extra tool in the kit available to you to help move through the jungle. The final thing that I wanted to showcase with the Qiyana is the use of the grass and shrubbery to actually give you some stealth. One of the important things to note about her stealth is that once you walk out of the queue, it will disappear. If you engage in the queue, it will disappear. So you actually just want to try and sit in there for as long as possible to get the maximum value out of it. So we're going to showcase now what you can do. Some of the cool stuff is, obviously it just provides stealth, which is very helpful, very handy when maneuvering through the jungle. Because again, the W resets the queue, what you typically want to do if you're running away from an enemy is run away, try and wait for your queue to refresh. And then what you can do is you can use the W for the first queue, or you can use the Q and then you can use the W to quickly reset and give yourself another one. So you have all these options and availability to provide you with a lot of stealth, a lot of mobility to help weave you through in and out of the jungle and potentially to safety. The very final thing that I wanted to talk to you about was passively, Qiyana gets bonus movement speed depending on the element that she's sitting on. This means that if you want to make a gank up top lane, grab a water element. You get bonus movement speed when you're running through the river. If you're returning to lane, grab yourself an earth element, because when you're near the walls, like Talia, you gain bonus movement speed. The grass element, perhaps not the strongest, but it can be used when running through the jungle and you just want to try and utilize the shrubbery throughout the queue, run in between the two shrubbery points, and then again, you get a couple more options to boost your movement speed and add to that extra bit of mobility. So utilize those elements as often as you can to just get these very small advantages. That does it for a lot of the tips and tricks I'm here to show you about Qiyana. There's still a lot more to understand about this very complex champion. I'm looking forward to our pros to show us a little bit more, but for me, that's going to be it.